Hey guys, back at it again with, I don't know. Listen, this is an '02 Accord. It's got the 2.3 liter engine in it. Obviously the valve cover gasket is leaking profusely, so we're going to change that today. We're going to take you through that. While we're there, we're going to throw some spark plugs in it. This video will work for almost every Honda 4-cylinder engine ever made. Actually, even the other brands, most valve covers are pretty easy to change, or valve cover gaskets. But yeah, we're going to take you through that. We got to let this cool off for a while before we can start on it, but for you it should only be a second, so we'll see you when we're yelling at the car. Cool. Okay, so we've given the car a while to cool off, and as you can see, we've cleaned the valve cover area because it was filthy. And we're ready to start removing bolts and things. We're going to start with our spark plug wires. We're going to pull those out and fold them over. Some of these wire clips, like this one here, will stay with the wires to keep them organized. And the way that I'm going to know where they went was the different wire lengths. Like, for example, this one isn't going to stretch up to this hole, and if I try and put it in the back one, it'll look funny. So those will be folded over. We've got 2 hoses here, and then there's 2, 4, 6, 10 millimeter bolts. Yeah, so we're going to start. We're going to start with hoses and wires. Loose. Actually, I bet this whole front side's going to be loose. Yep, sure is. What happens with these gaskets? So they're rubber-based and they're exposed to oil. And usually rubber-based things don't react well to petroleum products. And they get hard as a rock over time and they shrink. So where the bolts were tight before is no longer tight because the gasket underneath the cover has shrank and created extra space. If you use something to pry on the corner of this, make sure you just barely catch the corner. Try not to shove this in there. We don't want to scratch the gasket surface, because if we scratch it enough, it won't ever seal properly. So just a little bit. And it looks like, yeah, we're definitely underneath our timing cover over there. You can see it move when we go to pull on it. Maybe we can sneak this. Oh no, we're not. This goes over the timing cover. Okay, well that works out for us. So there's your valve cover removed. And on the valve cover, you see we have our gasket here. And then our spark plug tube seals. And that is what we need to work on prying out next. Once we have this out, we'll clean up the surface where the gasket sits and also the surface here on the block where it sits. You see it's pretty dirty. And then we can put everything back together. Okay, we've gotten the gasket out of here. We've gotten the spark plug seals out of here. Next thing we're going to do is start cleaning. Like I said, all these gasket sealing surfaces need to be cleaned. And, I mean, if we have some extra brake cleaner left over, we'll probably clean off the back of the valve cover here, because why not? And then we can start putting stuff back together. Yeah, see you then. Okay, so we have our gasket surfaces all clean, our old gasket removed. We've opened our package and checked to make sure we have the right gasket and the 4 spark plug tube seals and all the seals for the bolts, which we'll get to in a minute. Our gasket has 2 different sized round ends. One's a larger one and one's a smaller one. And if you look at the valve cover, you have a smaller loop and a larger loop. You put the small one with the small loop. Just saying.
I wish I had been filming your face when you said that.
I thought you were.
No, the camera was pointed down.
The people missed it.
Mm-hmm.
See how that works? Yeah. No, for real though, it all just kind of pushes into place here. It's a preformed gasket. It's pretty easy. The only pain in the ass is keeping it in place when you go to flip it over to put it on the engine. And if I had any, I would probably put some gasket maker in the channel around here, just because it's sticky. So it holds the gasket seal when we go to do that. Also notice that this new gasket sticks out much farther past the metal than the original gasket, because this one isn't crushed and ruined. Just saying. And then your spark plug tube seals, which is these guys, should be 4 of them, go into these machined areas here, and this is the direction they go. You see how the little cone is facing towards the top of the valve cover? If you flip it around this way, you're never going to get it over the spark plug tubes. It has to be like this. And usually these just push in by hand, which these ones do. They're nice and new, soft, and easy to work with, just like that. And do that for the other 3 too. And then we'll worry about the bolts and their rubber grommets once we get the valve cover on the car. Now you might need to take a piece of like a block of wood or something and a hammer and tap these down. These ones are pushing in nicely, so I'm not worried about that. That is that. That is our valve cover ready to reinstall. Now, like I said, this is the part that's annoying, because as soon as I turn it over, this gasket's want to come out. Get that back out of the way. See how bad it wants to come out. Actually, that's not terrible. Carefully slide it back over this, making sure that we get it back over our timing belt cover. You see the 4 spark plug tubes line up with the seals we just put in. You have to push it onto here. They don't just sit in there. You have to push. You'll feel it go down. It's a good snug fit. And we're looking good. Now, as we tighten up our bolts, and there's 5 bolts that actually hold this on, it'll compress this the rest of the way and take up this gap. So the bolts each get a rubber grommet. Also, the bolts are different lengths, so pay attention. I'm going to start off with a long one. I'm pretty sure that goes back here. That looks like it fits. If I put it in the front here, you see how much that sticks out? That's never going to work. So the long ones go in the back. And here are rubber grommets. And this just pushes through here, but it's really tight. Like obnoxiously tight. And I don't even know if I can get it through by hand. So what I'm going to do is slide on there and use the valve cover to press on. And I'm kind of rotating as I press. And we're just going to work it in circles. And check it. And it is going down in there. And yes, this does hurt your hand. We're almost there. Still going. And twist. Oh, it's like this. Once it's past this ridge, it's easy. But getting past that ridge is a real pain. So there's one bolt. There's one bolt.
I'll do that for the 4 others.
Yep, we sure do.
We also had to take off the old grommets on the other ones, and that took a good 15 minutes of pulling all of them off as well.
There were some words. And that bolt is started, so it is there and safe and not going to fall out. And we'll do it for the other 4, and then we'll be back with you. We got all our bolts in there and tight. We're going to put our hoses back on. This clamp I can pinch with my fingers pretty easy. Don't. Get a pair of pliers like a normal human. Don't be me. That's done. Throw our spark plugs in it, and I'll put our spark plug wires on. So let me grab tools to take out the spark plugs.
Okay, so we're loosening the spark plugs now?
Yeah. I'm only turning them so they're loose enough that I can spin by hand, and I'll take the ratchet off with the extensions. So when we're talking about wear on a spark plug, what we're mostly looking for is this little piece of metal here. And honestly, I forgot which one is which. One is the anode, one is the diode. I think this is the anode. And we're looking for wear on it or wear on the diode. And if you look at it from a cross section, you see the tip of the diode is starting to wear down. It's not square anymore. And your anode in here is starting to wear down to a fine point. It's almost gone. So this is actually a good time to change these plugs. Besides that, they're a little white. So the engine's been running a little bit lean. Was this engine ever overheated, Matthew?
Yes.
Okay, it shows. So, they're not terrible though. There's no physical damage to them, so there's no mechanical damage to the engine. They're not bright white like they're running way hot. And they're not black like they're running rich. I would say that they're actually pretty good average spark plug. And we'll show you the new ones too and talk about the gap on the spark plug once we get them out of the box. Alright, so we have one of our newer spark plugs here. And you can see physically what I was talking about, how the ends of them, this one is nice and square still, this one is starting to wear. And then on the tips of the ceramic portion, which I believe is called the anode, is starting to wear, and this one has lots of meat left and is nice and squared off. Also, when it comes to the gap, when you buy spark plugs these days, they come pre-gapped. You'll get specific spark plugs, in this case for your O2 Accord, with a 2.3 liter engine. For what you would just want to double check is that this metal strap and the end of the ceramic portion, the metal tip there, that flat surface and the bottom of this flat surface are parallel to each other. If this is bent at all, try and give it a tap to straighten it out so they're parallel. That's very important in the performance of the spark plug. But like I said, they come pre-gapped. As long as this is parallel and nice and straight and looks good, you can just go ahead and put this in the car. In northern climates, I would normally suggest putting a little bit of anti-seize on the threads, just a very little bit, because you don't want it to get down into the cylinder, but just a touch. Our climate, honestly, I don't know, it's 50-50. It's recommended, it's not. We live in Florida, we don't ever put salt on the roads, our cars never rust. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them in the car like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and insert this down into the tube. One thing that you do not want to do is just drop it. because if you drop it and your metal strap here hits the top of the cylinder, it can bend it over to where your gap is closed or much smaller than it was. So I try and get it slid in here, and with my finger I'll guide it down to the bottom of the hole, and then once it's down there, take our socket and we'll go ahead and get it tightened up. And I can feel it catching. We're going to screw it in as far as we can by hand, which is there. It's touching. The threads, the base of the spark plug is touched, which is snug now, and I'm going to go another quarter turn, and then that's it. That one's done. And we're going to repeat that for these three, checking the gap, sliding it down the tube carefully, and not over tightening it. And then we'll be back with you when we go to put our spark plug wires back on. All our spark plugs in are tight. I did all the other three of them just the way that I showed you. And I think that's about it besides our spark plug wires. I think once we have the wires on here, I'm going to clean my handprints off of here just so it looks nice because we've done the work to it. But what I was saying about these wires earlier, if you lay them out, you can tell by the length of the wire where they went. It's not, you can't get them mixed up. So we just put them back according to their length, and then we are done. Make sure we get it back into its little cutesy little holder here. Make it all pretty. There you go. That's it, people. I'm not gonna show cleaning it just because who cares? Yeah, it's not. If you can't figure out how to clean it, listen, man. Anyway, so if this video was helpful, make sure you like it. Subscribe to our channel, tell your friends, share the video. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. We're always here. And yeah, y'all have a good one. Good luck. I don't know.
We've really got to work on our outros.
Get off my channel.